This episode is sponsored in part by Kichler Lighting.
Hey guys, Terry here with the Forest Farm Project. Today we're going to show you how to install the 6U series LED under cabinet light by Kichler Lighting. When you unbox this fixture, you're going to get everything typically needed for installation. The light fixture, a hardware packet that includes the mounting screws, wire nut, a wire connector for the wire coming out of the wall, and end caps that cap over the ends of these connectors on the light. There's two ways to install this fixture. Generally, most manufacturers are going to give you the option of mounting this light to the back wall. You knock out one of these 5 little tabs on this one. If it's a smaller light, there'll be less. If it's a bigger light, there'll be more. And you run the wire connector through there, run your wire in there and make it up, and you have it against the back wall. There's also the option that Kichler has, and we'll show you that in a bit, where the light is out front, therefore getting more light on the counter instead of all to the back. So let's go ahead and do the conventional method first at the back and show you how that works. The first step before installing anything electrical is to check for power. That red light indicates there is power. So locate the breaker that goes to that circuit, turn it off, come back and double check that there's no power so you're safe. And check all the wires. There have been houses I've been in before, older houses, where the electrician actually made the white wire hot. The first thing we do is take the 2 longer mounting screws and insert them into the fixture on each end. Give them a couple of turns, but don't turn them all the way through. You don't want them scratching your counter, nor do you want to scratch the bottom of your cabinet. They will protrude out the back here, so you want to make sure they're not sticking out before you start moving this fixture around until you get it installed. By installing these screws, it's going to make it a lot easier when you mount the fixture. They're already up there. You can take your drill or your screwdriver and just run the screws in. You're not trying to hold the fixture up and get the screws started as well. So that really makes it easier. Next, we need to determine where we want to put this light. Generally speaking, people will center them up. You don't have to center it up. Maybe you got a stove light over here, so you want to push it to the other end of the counter because that's a longer cabinet area. Maybe you want to push it towards the stove and help light what you're cooking. We generally put them in the center. So I will flip this light down and say which one of these holes is closest to my wire. And this one right here is just about centered on it. So that's the one I'm going to knock out, and that's where I'll install my connector to run my wire through. And it's out. Next, we're going to install this connector where the wire hooks through in the hole. It can be a bit tricky getting those things started sometimes. Not bad though. You want these screws pointing towards the side where the cover's at, because that's what's going to be exposed when you stick it up there, and you need to be able to tighten these down to clamp on the wire. Okay, the next step would normally be to take this fixture and you take these wire nuts off, stick the wire through this hole, and hook it up. However, we're actually not going to install it the conventional way because we want to install it out here, so I don't want a bunch of holes in my cabinet for this demonstration. So it'd be up here. We'd slide that wire in here and slide it all the way up to where it comes out of the wall, and then run our 2 screws in to hold this fixture up. We'd hook the wires up and be done, flip the cover closed. But I'm going to show you on the countertop here with a scrap piece of wire how that connection's made. So we've got a scrap piece of wire simulating what would happen up on the cabinet. I'm going to run it in there. This would be going on into the wall and out to your light switch. Next, I would slide this up to the wall, to where the wire is coming out of the wall. Turn these screws down to snug it up. Don't over tighten them, you can crush the wire. You just want to get it snug. And if this was already hanging up on the cabinet like it would be normally, we're doing this for demonstration purposes only, this door would hang down for you. Now, strip this insulation. Be very careful that you only cut this outer sheath and don't cut into the wires. As you can see, I've got paper there, I didn't cut anything. I've been doing this a long time, so I'm pretty familiar with how to strip a wire. If you haven't been, be really careful because it's easy to skin the insulation. If you do skin the insulation, the code book says to replace it with electrical tape equivalent to the insulation factor of this wire. Well, I'm looking at the thickness of that wire. I'd probably wrap 4 or 5 wraps of electrical tape around us if I nicked that thing, just to insulate it so it doesn't short out in the box, because power comes in on this black wire, it goes out on the white wire. Cut these off. Next, you've got a green wire down here. You pull that little piece of insulation off, grab your wire nut. I generally twist these wires just to get them good and snug. Line these up so they're pretty even. Maybe letting the stranded one stick just a little past the solid one. Make sure they're both in there. Turn your wire nut down. Get it good and tight. Be careful not to break it. Pull on it. Make sure that wire is in there and not coming out. Should be a good connection. Pack it down in there because you're going to have to get all 3 of these wires in there. Next, you're going to have to strip the white wire. I'm stripping probably 3/8 of an inch there. It's not necessarily a set way to do it. It could be a little shorter, a little bit longer. You want to have it within the wire nut when you're done. You don't want it hanging out of the wire nut. Now, we're going to add this to the factory connection. Get that wire lined up. Make sure these are twisted together still. And that's your neutral wire. Make sure it doesn't come out. Make sure these don't come out. And that's all you do. And you'd repeat that process with the black wire as well. I'm not going to hook it up. I'm just going to show you. You'd close the lid. Pack these wires down good. Got to get them behind the transformer. Close the lid. Flip your breaker on. And enjoy your light fixture. I'm going to take this temporary connection apart, and we're going to show you the way Kichler has innovated an excellent way of doing this. Now we're going to show you the installation method that we much prefer, and Kichler offers a wiring box. This wiring box slides over the wire via these holes on the back up to the wall where the light was for the previous installation. Then you have a cable that jumps from that box out to the front of the cabinet, and you mount your light at the front of the cabinet. Why we like this so much is if your light's all the way in the back and you've got a jar of olive oil and a Javalia coffee mug or a container here and all this different stuff, it shadows the counter because all these things are blocking the light, so there's shadows out across the counter in your work area. When you bring the light out front, most of your stuff is generally going to be to the back of the countertop. So your light's out front, it's lighting your work surface, providing excellent work area lighting, and it even comes out into your drawer because it's so far out, which is handy, especially in a dark room. You still want to install your screws into the fixture. It just makes it easier to stick it up there when they're already in there. And let's go ahead and show you how we hook all this up. Again, always think about safety. Check for power, make sure your breaker's off. So we had wire nuts on here just to make it safe while we're waiting to get these fixtures installed. I'm going to remove them now. We know the power's off. We've checked the breaker and we've double checked the power here to make sure there's no power. So first we want to mount the wiring box. It's got a cover that's got 4 tabs that pop into it, but we won't install that until we get the box mounted and wired. There's 2 knockouts here that you can poke through and stick your wire through, and you might want to determine location of that based on how long your cable is, where your light fixture is mounted, and where this box is mounted. One thing to note, there is if you'll notice the difference, there is a male and a female end on the cable. On this box, you see the female end and the male end, and the fixture is set up the same way. So when you put this box up there, on this particular setup, I'm going to have the female end on, or male end on the right. So that's going to make female end on this. So then I'm going to have the male end on this. So the light fixture female end needs to be on this end. So when we install that light fixture, in the back, it would have went that way. But in the front, you want to orient it around with the light going towards the middle a little bit so that you have the female end ready to accept this connector. So let's knock this knockout on the box. I'm going to look at this box. I want it that way because that's the direction the end of my fixture is going to be at. So if I want it that way, it's going to be this side that I want to knock out. You don't break it out, you just bend it out of the way a little bit so that you can push your wire through. Slide this up the wire. Now if you have a lot of extra wire, you only need a few inches in here, maybe 4, 5, 6 inches. I'll push that extra wire in the wall. You never know what you might do in the future. So there's 2 mounting holes you can't miss. Right here. Comes with 2 screws. And it's in. Get my other mounting screw. Clear the whole area out. And that's it. Next, I'd pull my wires down and get them where they're easy to work with. And these have connectors. And if you'll look on the back side here, they've got a wire in and a wire out, plus my wire coming into it. So I have a black one for a hot, green one for the ground, white one for the neutral. Black, white, and ground is provided they wired it properly. Should all be exactly where they go. Obviously the bare goes in with the green, black with black, white with white. So I'd roughly strip about 3/8 of an inch of that wire. To make this a little easier to work with and pack the wires in, it's easier if you skin more of this wire. Again, be careful when you're doing this. It's really easy to cut into the insulation on that wire. And by code, you can tape it and fix it. Just make sure you tape it heavily. All right, since the black wire is down, I'm going to go ahead and hook it up first. Push this wire into that connector, kind of wiggle it and pull. I'll go ahead and check the factory connections. There's been a time or two over the years that connectors like this on fixtures, the wire come loose on it. I mean, human error, you're going to have it. There's the black one, which is the hot. The ground's the next one in line, so I'll hook that up next. And it's in. And just make sure you get these wires up in the box so you have plenty of room to put the cover on and install the white one. Good. Make sure they're not going to pull out. We're good. And now take your cover, align these tabs. Make sure, I usually line the back ones up first. It's easier to see them that way. Then line the front ones up and it should pop right up in there. Good to go. Okay, we've got the box in. Now we could go ahead and mount the fixture and then run the wire to it. I like to hook the wire on first. It's just easier to get it plugged in when it's down here loose. And we've marked center on the fixture, and underneath we marked center on the cabinet where we want this light to set. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in here. Next, you plug your connector into your box. That way, I know my light's going to reach the cable. If I happen to have it too far down, the cable might not want to go in very well. I might have it too far this way. Just depends on what your setup is. In our situation, it's all working out really good. Okay, I centered my light up on my mark right here. And this is what I love about these fixtures. Kichler's really went all out. The screws right here. Boom, it's in. It don't get much better than that. Now we have a cable clamp. You push it hard this way and it will clamp, but I got to get around the wire first. Also, there's some double sticky tape on the back of here. And you peel that off. Then that screw goes into the wood, but the tape actually helps hold it. In this installation, that wire is really staying up there good, but over time, the wire will relax and it might hang down. We don't want that, so we're going to go ahead and put this cable clamp on take it and clamp it on the wire. You have to squeeze pretty solid. Then, take your screwdriver or drill and that is it. So now these end caps plug the holes that are not used. One of the nice things about these Kichler lights is you've got this light plugged in over here. You can plug another cable and run that direction if you wanted to add another light. And then you can go off of that light. Or the lights have these connectors on them. You can plug one light into the next and you could have a steady string of lights. So it's really awesome the way they've innovated and designed these things. You just push this little connector up in there. Put one on the light fixture. Good to go. Okay, they provide a third installation screw. I honestly don't know if it's really needed with those two screws on the end, but we always stick it in there because it came with the fixture and we don't want to do something that, or not do something that should have been done. This little short screw goes in this hole right here next to the transformer. It's now safe to turn the breaker back on because the wiring is complete. All right, let's see what this light does. Bright as can be. Well, that completes the installation.
Yep, and as Dad mentioned earlier, there are varying cable lengths. They come in 9, 14, and 21 inches. Generally speaking, what we've come across in our electrical business is the 14-inch cable will do most tasks. Additionally, the lights are available not just in white, but in nickel and in bronze. So if you've got walnut colored cabinets and you want the bronze to blend a little better, you can do that. Generally speaking though, we find that most people, regardless of the color of cabinets they use, they want white under cabinet lights just because unless you're down looking up, you're not going to see the under cabinet lights. So it's not a huge deal what color they are.
No, not really.
And as Dad mentioned, you can change the color on these and we'll show you here. This is currently the standard LED coloring. And there's your tungsten coloring. So big difference in the look. If you want more of a mood setting at night and you're just doing a dinner party, you could have these on, be the only light in the room, and you could have it on the yellow. And the more white light is a much better work light, better task light in general. It's easier to see what you're doing.
And check back later, we're going to be doing an install of a pendant light over the sink. In addition, we're going to do a review on these lights and show you why we think this cabinet light should be out like it is, and some of the different ways that this can enhance your kitchen lighting. Typical old houses have a fluorescent fixture. This can make a world of difference in that house.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And one other thing we hadn't mentioned is, like Dad showed, there's an on-off switch on the light fixture. Well, you can use that if you're direct wiring the fixture because you don't have another power source in the room. What we did is put one switch over by the kitchen sink and that controls all the lights for the countertops. That way you flip that one switch, everything comes on, you're lit up and ready to cook.
Yeah, and my wife and his wife as well love to see light on their cabinets, and my wife is just, she'll turn every light in the room on, and she is so excited when she comes in here to work. She just smiles, turns that light on, and goes to work.
It really makes it a lot more appealing, a lot more enjoyable because you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, and she's my food source, so I want her happy when she's cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed this, and like he said, check back, we'll be installing a pendant light soon. Have a good one, guys.
See you next time.